The Kraken lawyers, who had spent months spreading the big lie in order to overturn the 2020 election, appear to be in a little bit of trouble themselves. According to Law and Crime, a federal judge ordered that Sidney Powell and Lynn Wood be referred for a professional conduct investigation, which could lead to possible suspension or disbarment. Fun. In a scathing 110-page ruling, U.S. District Judge Linda Parker tore into the pro-Trump lawyers, and here's a few highlights. Again, I'm not going to read the full 110 pages, but here's a few of those. She writes, "This lawsuit represents a historic and profound abuse of the judicial process. It is one thing to take on the charge of vindicating rights associated with an allegedly fraudulent election. It is another to take on the charge of deceiving a federal court and the American people into believing that rights were infringed without regard to whether any laws or rights were in fact violated. This is what happened here. Plaintiffs asked this court to ignore the orderly statutory scheme established to challenge elections and to ignore the will of millions of voters. This court cannot and will not do. This the court cannot and will not do. The people have spoken." Yes, true. They have in an election where it was basically COVID on the ballot, and Donald Trump had failed utterly to control the coronavirus during his time in office, and so the people decided to go to Biden. Now, that's not to say that everything is great under Biden right now, as COVID cases are, especially mostly like 99% among the unvaccinated, are still hammering these areas. Not good. So now, anyway, she added, by the way, in italics for emphasis, that this case was never about fraud. It was about undermining the people's faith in our democracy and debasing the judicial process to do so. And added, "While there are many arenas, including print, television, and social media, where protestations, conjecture, and speculation may be advanced, such expressions are neither permitted nor welcomed in a court of law. And while we as a country pride ourselves on the freedoms embodied within the First Amendment, it's well established that an attorney's freedom of speech is circumscribed upon entering the courtroom." Meaning, of course, you get into a courtroom and you can't do those things. You cannot do the conjecture and speculation. You have to tell the truth. So that's why these cases didn't go anywhere. Because it turned out that their proof, their so-called proof, was conspiracy and innuendo. That's it. That's unprovable in court. So it's great for clicks and views on Fox and on YouTube conspiracy videos, but it doesn't hold up in court. You need evidence. You need actual evidence. Sworn affidavits, by the way, and they'll go on and on about, I've got a sworn affidavit from this one person, this rando, and they say that it's true. Okay, well, why don't we look into that? Oh, right. But affidavits are not evidence upon themselves. And you're just, what? They're basically really counting in the court to say, oh, no, trust me, dog. Totally fine. No, not fine. In fact, let me give you an example of one of the affidavits that they tried to use. There was an anonymous affidavit by a witness who was codenamed Spider and a so-called intelligence expert. Now, both of those people were later unmasked by the Washington Post in stories reporting that they had inflated their credentials, meaning they were not who they say they were, and lied about who they were and about what they knew. And if they lied about that, well, then, of course, they would lie about what they've seen. Oops. But again, if you lie in court and you say, oh, I've got evidence, and then never produce it, and just say, don't worry, just trust me, bro, I know what I'm talking about. No, that's not going to fly in a courtroom. You're going to get in trouble. And that's what they did, and that's why all these lawsuits lost. That's why they're getting obliterated by this federal judge. Rudy Giuliani, for example, had already lost his ability to practice law in New York. And now there will possibly be consequences for these so-called Kraken lawyers. Parker had asked disciplinary committees to investigate other people as well: Julia Holler, Emily Newman, Brandon Johnston, Howard Hendler, Scott Hagerstrom, Gregory Roll, and Stephanie Lynn Gentilla in their home states, to see if, of course, they might also get disbarred. Holler and Newman happen to be former Trump officials serving in HUD and Homeland Security, respectively. And Kleinhendler has also done a lot of partisan cases on behalf of Republicans, which have not gone well. One example of that was he decided to sue Major League Baseball over the cancellation of the All-Star game as a result of COVID. You want to guess how that worked out? Not well. Not well. On that, here's what Parker wrote. Indeed, attorneys take an oath to uphold and honor our legal system. The sanctity of both the courtroom and the litigation process are preserved only when attorneys adhere to this oath and follow the rules. Only when courts impose sanctions, when attorneys do not. And despite the haze of confusion, commotion, and chaos counsel intentionally attempted to create by filing this lawsuit, one thing is perfectly clear: plaintiffs' attorneys have scorned their oath, flouted the rules, and attempted to undermine the integrity of the judiciary along the way. So what's the consequences here? Well, the judge further ordered the Kraken lawyers to complete and pay for, out of pocket, continuing legal education courses on pleading standards and election law. Plaintiffs' attorneys shall each complete at least 12 hours of continuing legal education in the subjects of pleading standards, at least 6 hours total, and election law, at least 6 hours total, within 6 months of the decision. Any courses must be offered by nonpartisan organizations and must be paid for at counsel's expense. Within 6 months of this decision, each attorney representing the plaintiffs shall file an affidavit in this case describing the content and length of courses attended to satisfy this requirement. And of course, if they don't, well, they're going to likely get disbarred and perhaps face even further consequences for ignoring a court order. Overall, very light sentence, very light decision. But again, they are being referred to their states in order to see if they will get disbarred in their own states. So much for the Kraken, which ended up, of course, being a dead floppy fish wrapped in some rotten seaweed. Sad. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and share with your friends. You can subscribe and help out the channel by becoming a patron. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf, or you can become a channel member as well by hitting the join button below.